Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone, wherever you may be, somewhere across our absolutely lovely world. Thanks for joining us live here for the one and only Serverless Office Hours. We are streaming on the AWS Twitch channel and also via YouTube on AWS Events channel. So if you're joining us, we love to hear where you're from. We have a global audience. We love to hear all the serverless things you're building and where you're from and what you're excited about today. It is July already, which is bizarre. The clocks are coming in, winter's coming, but that's a long way off. More importantly today, we have Basil joining us. Basil, welcome to Serverless Office Hours. Bad on me that we haven't had you before. But for people who just don't know and understand the great Basil.
Please do explain yourself. How has it taken so long to get me on this?
Basil, I think your microphone may not be coming through the correct one. I did hear what you asked. Are you admonishing me?
I was saying that maybe we should start with you explaining yourself. Like, how did that happen? But then I forgot to actually talk to the microphone. So
I apologize profusely. Being rectified today. So for people who don't know you, Basil, like, what's you doing at AWS, and what do you do?
So I'm the principal tech evangelist, part of the developer experience team, as you are. I'm based in Dubai. There's really kind of two halves to what I do. One is very regional. So I'm focused on the developer experience strategy for the Middle East, North Africa, and Turkey. So I work a lot with our local teams, our local communities. I work a lot on content also, planning something in Arabic language, for example, for the Middle East developer communities. But I also work with the global teams, sometimes the GenAI service teams on different product launches, as you do as well. And I work with our marketing teams across EMEA. So I'm also working with them on a new kind of GenAI story series to highlight the very new and exciting generative AI customers that are building amazing things all across EMEA. And I'm working with the global team as well on different campaigns, spotlighting how people are using generative AI. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm really honored to be with you here today.
Sounds like a quiet life.
It's so quiet. It's so there's no thrills at all.
And I was in Dubai recently for the Dubai Summit. So yeah, it's amazing to see the Dubai Summit and the sort of interest and excitement in in that area about all things cloud and what's going on. And it's not obviously, Dubai and United Arab Emirates, although big impactful countries, they're small as well, but to see how the whole region and how people are super pumped up about all the cool stuff that's being built. So
it's really been incredible for me to kind of see the progression that's happened in the region. So I first started to come to the UAE around 2017, because at the time I had a startup. I was a tech founder, and my startup got accepted into an accelerator in Dubai. And I was just blown away by how much innovation is really part of the DNA there, and it's easy to talk about like innovation and, trying things and stuff. But one of the first things that kind of blew my mind and showed me that they really, walk the walk, they don't just talk the talk, is that there was a ministry of AI back in 2017, 2018, when I first moved there. So they saw like this entire wave that we're in coming way early, and they invested in it. And I just got to see that progression, like after I moved here at that time. And then, it was such a special moment, like, for example, last year, to be doing a session about generative AI on AWS at the University of AI in Abu Dhabi. So that to me was such a full circle moment, because that's what initially attracted me to this place. And now I can, actually contribute. And it has something also to do with Leapstacks, that session I delivered there.
Definitely. Well, we're going to be getting in that today. Just, a quick question on the Dubai thing. I mean, Dubai is such a melting pot of sort of people from all over the world. I mean, even geographically, it's, I'm originally from South Africa. The number of, when you fly to and from South Africa, so many people do it from Dubai. It is this via Dubai because it, connects Africa, Asia, Europe sort of all together. America's a bit further away. Is that the sort of, the genesis of this, super tech melting pot? Because you go around Dubai and you think it's ridiculously hot there. It's in the desert, but there are so many people and so many businesses just doing so much.
Because you made the mistake of going outside. See, that's a rookie mistake, Julian, because you did not come during the winter months and you went outside, and nobody does that really in Dubai. In summer, we are kind of hiding in our different corners of Dubai. But that's you really talked about that melting pot, and that's what really attracted me to Dubai as well. Is so many people who come here, they come with like ambition and ideas. And one of the things that blew my mind when I first moved here is that just how quickly it was to get POCs launched in Dubai versus like other markets, or like when I was coming from the Egyptian market. Just if people are willing to try things out and they see if it works, and if it doesn't, and if it works, great, it continues and they double down. And if it doesn't, you get that clear feedback to improve things and iterate. And that's such an essential element in the formula of startups and building and innovation, is just to have that ability to try things out in the market, have people to invest with you, and help you fill in the gaps of whatever vision that you have. And that was in Dubai, and that's why you see it in all kind of facets of the lifestyle there. Like I always say that Dubai itself kind of operates like a startup. They have their North Star metrics, like different ministries, and they look and see kind of like things to do with quality of life and ease of doing business, and they're continuously monitoring and improving that. So from a tech and an innovation point of view, it's really interesting place to be.
Excellent. Well, thanks for the sort of tech/geographic/ tourism lessons. Yeah, we need people from all over the world.
For everyone who enters Dubai airport, I should have mentioned that I get 5 dirhams per person.
Perfect. Well, I mean, slightly a hop, skip, and a jump past Dubai, because I'm in London, past Dubai, is India, and Bengaluru on the August the 8th is having GOTO Serverless. This is a serverless conference at the Conrad Hotel in Bengaluru. Tickets are going fast. I was warned that they are running out as well. And honestly, I'm particularly annoyed because I'm going to be on holiday / vacation, so I can't be there. But we are throwing the big guns at this. We've got literally the head of all serverless product at AWS. We've got multiple developer advocates. We've got startup founders. We've got enterprise people. We've got, I mean, the lineup is actually stellar. And, India is such an exciting and, amazing place for IT as well. So yeah, please, if you are around or you're able to get there, this will be a super, super good conference. The conference organizers are amazing. We've worked with them often. Eric Johnson has been on the show and co-hosted a million times, is running with the show. So that means it's also going to be super awesome.
That's
it. Today we're talking about AI and prototyping and everything, and you've built something cool called Leapstacks. So yeah, what's Leapstacks?
So to go back to when I mentioned that time I was doing the talk at the University of AI. So since I joined AWS, I've really been kind of obsessing about simplifying things as much as possible. And initially, my focus was simplifying through different content and videos and just the way we express things. And I tried to kind of focus on how do we say things and explain what AWS is in the least amount of words, in the most non-technical jargon. That was something I was obsessing about for a while, because as like AWS, there's so much power and capabilities and services, and that's an incredible kind of like innovation playground and building blocks to build amazing things. But for people who are like newly introduced to AWS, sometimes it can be a bit of a learning curve, right? Just to understand how do things work, how do you connect these services together, what are these roles and permissions, and it's very, very focused on security, and security is a really essential thing, but having that layer as that part of the learning curve sometimes can kind of slow people down. So I've always been really trying to simplify things as much as possible. But then when I went and I delivered that session about Bedrock at the University of AI, these were PhD students, right? So they're very, very sharp people, like the sharpest tools in the shed. They're all like machine learning experts and stuff. And I was there talking to them about how do you build on Bedrock. And then after the talk, a couple of them came up to me and they told me, this is really fascinating, but we tried to kind of put something together to test it on Bedrock and we got a little bit confused. And I was shocked because they're really, really smart people. So if they kind of got confused by those first steps of how do we put things together, I was sure that so many other people would. So I decided at that point that I want to add another layer. I want to create kind of a solution that doesn't just, explain things simply through videos. I want to reduce the number of steps to just get those prototypes out. And then you can learn in reverse. So kind of like Hello World for a GenAI prototype. See it working, and then understand the moving parts in reverse. Okay. So I started to work on different kind of ideas of solutions, and I was writing these narrative docs, and I was sharing them with several people. And I remember I shared it with you also at some point and got your feedback. And the requirement for me that I put to myself is, number one, it had to be like less than half the number of steps that you currently needed to do. And then when I investigated at the time, the current Getting Started guide, the first GenAI build a GenAI app guide, it was like over 60 steps to get it done. So my objective was just less than 30 would be fantastic. And then the other objective is I wanted it to be browser based. I didn't want people to have to install anything, because if you install something locally, that means prerequisites, that means what OS are you on, and then you get into a whole other, a jungle of complexities. So based on those two things, and also, a third thing, and this is why this talk in serverless is relevant, is I want it to be serverless, because I'm a really big believer in serverless, and until now, honestly, I geek out on just the idea of serverless. I remember the first time I launched the Lambda function, like way back in the day, and just the idea of you could throw this block of code and have it run, and you're not worried about what is the server and what is the container or anything like that. That to me was amazing. And until now, it's something that I really always try to include in what I do. So I wanted that to be also another dimension. So what I came up with, it was Leapstacks, and you can see my screen, right?
Let me stick it up. Yes, it is up.
Okay, so I came up with this idea called Leapstacks. So it installs, with one click. There's really two parts to Leapstacks. One part is the main installer script, which installs this environment securely into your AWS account. So directly from the browser, as long as you're logged into your AWS console, you could just click deploy to AWS. It will open up a window and install that into your account, and then install this environment. That then the second part of it loads these, what I call them, these stacks on Leap, which are other CloudFormation stacks that have complete prototypes that are deployed through that stack, and you're able to launch it with one click. This was the two main kind of components of this system that I created on Leapstacks. And the journey itself, like of Leapstacks, just starts with going to leapstacks.dev, and you'll be able to see this website that you're seeing. And if like me, you kind of like to see what's going to happen before it happens, just so that you're kind of prepared. Everything that I'm about to show you is also in a video that you could see if you really just want to get that sense. After this, you could just click show me first, and then it's going to load me walking you through, which I'm actually going to do live right now, so we don't need to watch that. So it's just going to walk you through it. And then when you're comfortable enough and you've already logged into your AWS account, you can just click deploy to AWS, and that's going to open the secure stack on CloudFormation onto your account. And then all you need to do here is enter any email and password. And this is not your AWS email and password. This is just something to secure your Leapstacks environment. You could leave it the email just as is, or you can change it, and you can just enter whatever email that you want, as long as it does follow the Cognito password requirements, which is over 8 characters, uppercase and lowercase, letters, numbers, and so on. And then you just go to the bottom, say I acknowledge that it's going to create IAM resources, which it will, and then click create stack. And then once you do that, it will open up.
So this is, you've got obviously the leapstacks.dev website, but that's just a website that you can do it. But then this deploys Stack inside your own AWS account. Yeah. It's not as though Basil is hosting and doing anything. This is something in your own AWS account, so you can look through anything. But it's this whole wrapper that's got a website, got everything. Yeah. But it's literally in your own account, so you can do whatever you like. You could,
The first thing it does when it installs, it's going to give you a link into your CloudFormation. So I could actually open up my own CloudFormation stacks and show you, because it's already created just to save time. And once the stack itself is created, all you need to do is go to Outputs, and then just click the one link that's there, and that's going to open up your stack itself within your Leapstacks within your AWS account. And it's basically an HTML website hosted on S3 and just secured with Cognito, right? And the reason I did this is I really wanted to, first of all, just make this a very smooth process. You don't need to go anywhere else. It's in your account, and it's completely open source. So it's loading everything dynamically into your S3 bucket, including the assets and everything. So you have kind of full control over what happens into your account itself. And then it loads what you're seeing right now. Now, the first thing that happens, like before I talk about any details, let's say that you have never used Amazon Bedrock before, or it's a totally new AWS account. So the first thing that's going to happen is this pop-up will pop up, and it'll tell you that this subset of models, which are the ones that are used by within Leap just as testing models, they're not enabled. And you need to enable at least one model to be able to use Leapstacks, because every prototype needs at least one model to be enabled. Now, this is the first kind of friction point that people usually face when they're not aware that before actually using a model, you need to request access to that model and be granted access to that model. So this is that kind of first blocker to prevent any of those kind of like confusions on why is this not working, you know, this block of code. And then it's, as you know, it's a very simple process. It gives you the link itself. When you click on it, it opens up Amazon Bedrock. And then you're able to go through the models that you want to request access to, select access, and then just click request access. And as you know, most models, they take like maximum a minute or maybe a bit more just to get access to that model. And then once you do get access, all you need to do is go back, click refresh, and then it should show up as enabled. And then whatever models that you have chosen will show up in the combo boxes here that you can select when launching this prototype itself. I'm going to pause here and let me know, first of all, what do you think of that? And do you have any questions so far?
No, I love the simplicity, because I mean, it is a friction, but there's unfortunately good and legal reasons that because these models are you know, these are external providers, there are terms and conditions that do need to be accepted. So
absolutely,
in an ideal world, you would just want to go, access to all the models, but the world we live in, which is normal, doesn't have that. So I mean, I'm super impressed. I love the simplicity that, first of all, you know, writing AI applications is amazing because you can use your vibe coding, you can do whatever to build these kind of things. But, you know, setting up models and do this kind of thing is hard. And just to have a website that you could click on launch is great. I mean, I'm saying that, so I have built these and deployed these, and that's honestly the simplicity is just you know, give it a go. It's one click.
I appreciate that. Yeah. So I did want it to be truly a one-click experience, and it is actually just a one-click experience. What I'm going to show you right now, a couple of things I'm going to just describe before making that actual launch is that you may see here this auto destroy, and this is one of those requirements that I had also given myself in this kind of environment, because this has happened to me, and I'm sure it's happened to you, and I'm sure it's happened to so many other people. You get like a script that launches something on AWS, and you're excited about it, and you launch it, and then while playing with it, like you get a call, or you go out and you try to remember, oh, okay, I'm gonna remove everything later, but sometimes you forget and you get distracted, and then you leave these resources there running on AWS, and AWS is you know, running those resources for you, and at the end of the month, you get that email, which is not a very happy email to you, and you're like, oh my God, I forgot to remove those resources. So I did not want that. I didn't want that risk even to be there. Like, I didn't want to even just send a reminder. I wanted to completely prevent that potentially negative experience from happening. So this auto destroy is the what I added to it. So if this auto destroy is on, and by default it is, you can turn it off, but by default it is, and I suggest for anyone who's just experimenting to keep it on. As soon as you launch any prototype and it's launched, a 2-hour timer immediately starts, and it shows you that timer. And after those 2 hours are done, it nukes the entire stack with all of the resources in it, just to prevent any kind of, you know, resources that remain there. Another thing is that, other than this welcome video, which is just me, welcome to the generative AI prototyping environment. You can relax. This is a safe space. It is a safe space. So because like I wanted it to be also kind of like a guided experience. So you kind of like feel like someone's helping you out at every step, because it's going from the highest level of like just general, how do you build, and here's the prototype, and then starts to go into lower levels of how does that work on AWS, then what is Lambda, what is API gateway, how do they work together, and then how do you modify. So I wanted to kind of take it in multiple levels, one by one, and then with each one you're kind of guided by different kinds of guides. So any term, any technical term that you don't understand, you can click on and get that kind of explainer. And that includes also the 3 prototypes that are the initial stacks that are included in this kind of preview version of Leapstacks. You have a basic GenAI chatbot, which is just launches a full stack serverless chatbot. You got a simple front end, and you got a back end, and you got a connection, and it sends and receives messages with Bedrock. The second one is an agent that has a knowledge base and helps you, just very quickly upload your documents somewhere, click sync, and then boom, you're chatting with your documents. And then the third one uses a layer and a headless browser to actually browse websites. So now it's connected to the web, and it can look at websites and analyze them like someone's visually doing it, because it takes visual snapshots and then feeds it into a multimodal LLM. So these are just the 3 initial stacks that are included within Leap. And before launching a stack, I wanted to show you a couple of things. First of all, you get kind of this cost estimate, and the cost estimate, if you click on it, gives you kind of this approximate breakdown of what does this mean. And this is important so that people not only understand that these stacks are very, very cheap to run, like even if you run them like heavily, but to understand what does that mean. One part of it is the services that are being launched so that this prototype deploys, and those services are per usage or per time. But then there's also the tokens that you use when you're testing it out. And for different models, you have different token costs and token prices. Okay. So I wanted that to be very transparent, is that it shows you the approximate estimates, but then as you're actually running the prototype, it shows you how much you're paying in those tokens depending on the models. And again, just as a very important note, these are only estimates for the actual billing and pricing. This opens up the actual calculator, AWS calculator, if you want to get those 100% accurate figures. And other than that, if you want to understand what each prototype does, each one comes with its own demo video before you run it. So this is the first one.
Prototype 1, basic GenAI chatbot. This sets up the simplest generative AI prototype on AWS. It creates a front-end HTML file, which sends a message from the chat, which triggers a serverless function on the backend, which sends the prompt to an LLM and returns the result. Boom, that's it. All the necessary permissions and rules have already been created for you, so it works out of the box. Explore the sections below to learn more about the services used, how to customize it or plug it into your existing application, which is now easier than ever with Amazon QCLI. One click connects your prototype, and then you can make live changes just using prompts. Happy building.
And this
Cool.
this goes along also with other things. And at this point, I'm just going to launch this first one so I can show you how that works.
So that's something I didn't quite. Well, I sort of knew that, but the initial remit is the simplicity of getting rid of all of the actual deploy stuff, but also this is very nicely friendly, beginner focused as well, that it's not as though, we're just simplifying a stack, because CloudFormation takes time and complicated. But this is also literally starting from the very beginning, where you can learn about S3. And Bevan, thanks for joining us via YouTube. Appreciate the first thing, AWS is amazing. And then you said, S3 must be the most used AWS service. Probably. And I think that was, you popped that comment helpfully up when Basil was talking about the front end is all hosted on S3. So probably must be one of the world's biggest website hosting services, S3 as well, never mind all the other stuff it stores. So this takes you then through a really beginner approach, beginner friendly approach to learning about these services and what they do.
Yeah, exactly. And so if you're also confused about any of the actual services, when you click on one of the terms, it'll actually open up an explainer that I've done, and I call them kind of micro explainers, because each one is under 30 seconds, just as a high level what this is. So let's take Lambda, for example.
AWS Lambda. Lambda is code that runs on demand. It's called serverless, not because there are no servers, but because you don't have to worry about them. Just write the code and AWS will run it when triggered by an API call, a file upload, or even another service. It works great with LLMs on Amazon Bedrock, and combine it with API Gateway to make it publicly accessible to your front end.
And that's
cool.
That's just and then if you because obviously this doesn't do Lambda full justice in terms of all of the features and what it does and stuff. So when you run the video, then you can actually have that link to the full documentation if you want to actually dive deeper and just see how things work in terms of the developer guide or the API reference or stuff like that. Now you kind of have that high level understanding, and now this first prototype has already completed. This first one actually takes under a minute to complete, and just to test that everything is going all right, I'm just going to type here hello, and boom, that's it. It's everything has been created so that this one works. One of the important things also that I wanted to highlight about this is that a few days ago Bedrock launched the API keys. when I launched Leapstacks, it was literally just a week or so before that, and it included dynamically created API keys to kind of solve that problem as well. Now that's been solved by API keys, but anyway, within the environment, any kind of front end and back end communication is with a secure API key. So the next step after you play around with the prototype itself is then to open up how it works, and that gives you then that under the hood explanation of, okay, so here are the main services on AWS. What are those services and how do they interact with each other? And then when you understand that, you can go into the next steps, and it'll kind of give you those guides to then explore those services, make small changes here and there just to understand the moving parts and how they work together. And like when you click, for example, on Lambda itself here, it will open up the related Lambda backend function within that prototype itself. So you could then go into the code and understand, okay, so this is what the Converse API is. This is how to set a system prompt, for example, and so on and so forth. So it's taking that kind of approach to learning through a guided experience.
Okay, cool. We've already got some fanboys. Robert Tables, who's a good friend of Serverless Office Hours. This is really impressive stuff. Just shared it with my team at work. So excellent. We've got some
amazing.
And then TechBoy150, thanks for joining us via Twitch. This is really awesome. Is it 100% safe? Won't it expose my AWS account in any way? Good question.
That's a fantastic question. So, okay, here are the levels of security within Leapstacks itself. First of all, the main environment itself is secured with Cognito based on your username, your email and password that you set. So that's number one. The second thing is even that environment that's secured expires within 24 hours anyway. So if you want to re-access Leapstacks, you need to go back into the stack itself, click the link itself, it will generate a new pre-signed URL. So it's secured and it expires as well. The prototypes themselves also have that double level of security, is that when a prototype's created, even if you don't have it as auto-destroyed and it stays on, it will expire after a certain amount of time if you wanted to, or you could keep it onwards. Because one of the use cases, for example, of something like this is if you are using these services to build GenAI examples for your customers and your clients. Like you want to build these prototypes and show them to people. So you want to send them a link to actually try out a prototype, but you don't want that to live on forever. You just want to give them access for like a day or something. So that's also why all of these URLs are pre-signed and then they expire. So that's another level as well. And this means that nobody has access to your AWS account. They just have access to these prototypes that you've launched for a minimum amount of time.
Okay, yeah. And then, yeah, Cognito is the username and password, but I mean, also you've got, S3 isn't writing anything. API gateway is also, you haven't got, there's no post access to API gateway, so there's all multiple levels. A question from Emin, which is slightly tangent to this. Question for AWS: when managed MCP server will be released? Yeah, interesting question. MCP is going like gangbusters. So I probably have three answers to this. One is, when you say managed MCPs, please let us know what you mean, because we have a huge bunch of MCP servers for things like documentation, serverless. In fact, one got released yesterday, which I need to take a look at, all about pricing. So Basil was talking about going to the pricing calculator. And I mean, there's a lot of stuff you may need to fill into there. And you can actually, the pricing MCP server, you can give it an architecture and say, give me an idea of what that's going to cost, and it'll sort that out for you. So AWS... GitHub, let me think. I think it's just github.com/AWS/MCP, or do AWS MCP labs, MCP, or something like that. You'll find it. And there are so many MCP servers. So that's the one part of the question. The other part of the question, the other answer is, you can run your own MCP servers, be it on Lambda, on Fargate, on EC2, and whatever. Off you can go and do anything. I'm gathering that your question actually is, well, is there going to be a managed MCP, maybe gateway, not necessarily the sort of server kind of thing that's going to happen? And I mean, there are various initiatives to try and work out what the best thing is going to be. I can't tell you anything today because that would be maybe spoiling some people's stories. But of course, we're working on this behind the scenes. So, Basil, what do you have to say?
Yes, I have an addition to that, and it is good news. So in the next batch of Leapstacks, there will be a stack that includes strands and MCP. for the same kind of one-click ease of setup. And then you go in and you add your own tools to MCP, the MCP servers. It'll be very easy to do that, and then kind of build out, more complex workflows using Strands, which I'm not sure if anyone, watching has tried Strands with MCP. It is really, really, really incredible. And getting it set up quickly, and then being able to experiment and add then your own layers of innovation, and connecting your data sources, connecting your actions easily. This is going to be, I think, a game changer. And as soon as that launches, I'll be releasing it on my LinkedIn. So please do connect with me on LinkedIn to get notified as soon as that launches. Yeah.
Okay, Basil's LinkedIn details are in the stream notes as well. So I mean, that was a bit of a long answer to the question, because MCP, there are a lot of different moving parts to it, and even when you say managed MCP server, that is a few different things. So, but yeah, you did have another question as well when we were talking about API gateway. So thanks, Amin. But API gateway is vast, and in enterprises, usually you will use a private API with a proxy integration, and then front it with an ALB or DNS routing and so on. I don't know if I'd entirely agree with that. That in enterprises, you very much can use a private API, but it doesn't necessarily have to be fronted with an ALB for DNS and all that kind of thing. There could be, it depends if this is going to be publicly accessed or not. So, if you're using a private API that's for private things within your subnet that you don't want to be exposed publicly, if you then do want it exposed publicly, you do have the choice of ALB, or just also have a public API gateway. So tell us, is there a question in that as well of what you're thinking, or are you just more concerned that API gateway in this Leapstacks example is going to be too broad or not going to be secure enough? Let us know.
That is an important point that they
so on the
raised,
next step, so basically you could click on the Lambda function. Carry on, Basil.
No. I was just going to say it is a very important point that they raise, and it's actually tied with what the vision of Leapstacks is, because at the end of the day, this initial group of Leapstacks, this is like purely the POC of this environment, this idea of this one-click launches, and then learning through video explainers and like kind of customized guides. Right now, we have over 100 signups from solution architects, developer advocates, technical account managers, and AWS community heroes who are building their own Leapstacks that are going to be included in upcoming versions. So you're going to have versions that are purely entire stacks purely for these enterprise use cases. You're going to have entire stacks purely for a startup's initial MVP, for fintech, for things that even are not related to generative AI, things that may have to do with just data analytics. Any kind of stack that can be one-click launched and then customized with different learning guides. That's going to be the hopefully the future of Leapstacks, and that opens up a very other exciting avenue, is that different creators will be able to create their own videos in different languages. So there's going to be the Arabic version of Leapstacks for different stacks. There's going to be Spanish versions. There's going to be French versions, so that you can explain things in the best ways for your community as well.
Cool. And I think Robert hits the nail on the head. I'd say a huge benefit for this from an educational perspective as well. Absolutely, this is starting, and a good bit of feedback in the future. These might be a module in your employee onboarding. There you go.
Fingers crossed. Let's hope so. Let's hope so. That would be amazing. With your support, Robert.
So the next steps you had there, so you can literally go click on the Lambda, you can click on the Lambda function, and then just change. You can see the code, click on deploy, and then you're good. But then and then look below that, like you can view copy the request code with an API key. What are the sort of other options or the next steps that you've got?
So the first guide was about exploring the Lambda and changing the system prompt, and then the second one is exploring then the front end HTML file, which is just a file hosted on S3, and seeing how do we connect to the Lambda function, like through API gateway, and then getting that API code, and then therefore you can plug it into your application. So let's say you already have a running application, you could just take that connector with your private API key and then plug it in, and now you have a connection to generative AI on AWS right away, without needing to do anything else. So that's the way to kind of plug it into your application or start modifying the front end. Now, speaking of modifying the front end, one of the things that was really important for me to add, because us working within developer experience, and you know this, Julian, right? When we're talking about developers, that's such a wide spectrum, right? A developer is not just a developer, right? Could be front end, could be back end, could be full stack, could be more data focused, could be more IT. So I wanted a way where if someone isn't full stack, isn't comfortable in diving into the back end and the front end and really going through the entire process, to be able to make small modifications easily without actually having to understand all of the parts of the stack. And that's where I added the link to Amazon QCLI. And I'm hoping that everyone who's listening is aware of Amazon QCLI, has tried it, because it's really, really amazing. And Julian, I know you've tried it. I know you're a fan of it as much as I am. It's just such a fantastic console agent that, you know, just helps you do things so much faster, breaks complex tasks down. And also the fact that it can do things also from a DevOps perspective on AWS, help you deploy, help you debug deployments, look at CloudWatch logs, help you figure things out, is a really, really incredible addition now. And that's why I created this link to Amazon QCLI. Which,
so yeah, just for people who don't know, you know, QCLI, you know, Amazon Q is across all of AWS, from you know, in the console to, there's a business component to it, you know, lots of different things. But this particular one is Amazon Q as a CLI, and it's got some clever stuff in there that it just knows about AWS, so it can do things, you know, particularly with AWS. And it's also got an agentic thing, which allows you to connect to the MCP servers, as Amin was talking earlier. So yeah, it's just super useful to be able to connect to all the different kind of things. I'm talking into the void now because Basil is back with us. Excellent.
We're fine. I just got to the edge of the void and came back. I didn't fall into the void. Yeah, so just to complete that loop about Amazon QCLI, and that's a great explanation that you gave, is when you click on here, edit live with Amazon QCLI, two things will happen. First, it's gonna load a bash script that's been dynamically created that you could then save locally and run as a script, which then runs a custom prompt with Amazon QCLI to connect it with this prototype. It gives it the code of the prototype and all of that, so that it's now aware of the front end and back end. And then you can use natural language to start modifying things in the front end and the back end. You could say, make this page, which, as you've seen, I mean, it's a very, very bare page, you know, and I've done that on purpose. You know, these chats are very, very kind of like simple. You could start, say, add a navigation bar, add a side menu. You know what? Add an entire security layer username and password with this and set it up. And Amazon QCLI is able to do that. And if you do not have Amazon QCLI there, depending on the OS it detects, it will walk you through the exact steps to install it first.
Fantastic. Yes. Also, yeah, good question. Thanks, Van Dredge12 from Twitch. Do we need credits to use Leapstack?
Well, credits help, right? Because credits are always good. So if you are part of the free tier, that kind of gives you coverage. If you have credits, like if you've signed up, for example, if you're a startup and you've signed on AWS Activate, you get credits. If you have credits through different kind of initiatives that you've become part of via AWS, or you've been assigned credits, at the end of the day, it does consume on your account. So if you want to be completely covered, then having credits there to cover you would be the best case scenario. But like I showed in the pricing itself, it's just like fractions of pennies or fractions of dollars usually to try it for a little bit and then delete it. But yes, I mean, you don't need credits to use it, but credits are always good.
Yeah, always love credits. Yeah, and yeah, I mean, because the pricing is transparent, you can also see here, you know, auto deletes in 1 hour 45 minutes. So, you know, there's very little risk of you know, causing yourself some damage. I mean, you literally, I would think if you went mad, you would maybe rack up on one of the heavier ones $1 for to test this out. You know. Yeah.
I mean, definitely the most expensive one is the knowledge base, because it uses open search collections, which, you know, just on the spectrum of different you know, vector databases, they run a bit hot, as you know, but still not so much if you're just trying it for like 15 minutes or 30 minutes or anything like that.
Cool. And Amin's actually come back as well with her great initiative, of course, working in an enterprise, hence the previous comment about API Gateway. And we have our internal reusable modular stacks in Terraform. Great idea, and would benefit from Leapstacks and Modesty contribute. Well, I mean, that's also the great kind of thing. I can see I think the whole bigger story of what you're actually saying is having internal reusable modular stacks that you have for your organization is super, super beneficial. And yes, maybe having an internal Leapstacks could be, or if you want to, if you've got some good, if you've got some stacks that are going to be helpful for the community, I'm sure Basil's not going to complain if you'd like to contribute and help other people out.
Not at all. I'd really, really, really appreciate that. And please do connect with me. I'd love to know more about like the use case that you're doing and how I can help with the modification of Leapstacks for your particular case. Because, you know, if you're facing, you know, you're looking for particular kind of customizations and objectives using the concept of Leapstacks, then others would be too. So it would make sense to include that also in future versions.
Cool. Actually, I'm going to do a quick thing to show, because I mean, I love talking about our serverless stuff. We will come back. We will. Oh, I just need to remove. Talking about QCLI. So a little while ago, this is the serverless patterns collection, which is separate from Leapstacks, but I can definitely see some collaboration happening in the future. And so this website runs. It's hosted on Amplify. It's basically a static site. I'm not a front-end developer. I'm bad at that, basically. But I know that some of the serverless patterns are patterns that are actually from the documentation, and they are, you know, AWS vetted, approved, these kind of things. And so I thought, you know what? Why don't we just create a pick filter that allowed you to have AWS top picks? And so I literally typed in QCLI, I would like to create a new filter called AWS picks with. And I called it something, and it then came up with AWS picks and said, please, can you actually rename this to AWS top picks? And it implemented this filter fully on the front end. I didn't even need to know anything about the Java. And that literally added it. It literally took all of a minute from just an idea of that would be nice. I then said, oh, I can improve this. When we click on the actual page itself, can you actually put this little star and have AWS top pick over there? And I just literally typed that in natural language. It came up, it was a little bit squashed up the top under where you say back to all patterns. And I literally typed in, can you give a little bit more space? And I did say, please, because you need to be nice to your GenAI agents. So I said, can you give a little bit of space between the text? I literally just said the text above and the text below, so it stands out a little bit more. You know, 5 seconds later, that's done. Pushed, deployed, and that was done. So yeah, I mean, I was just using QCLI, you know, ridiculously easy. This wasn't even specific AWS stuff it was doing, which it knows well. But yeah, love it. Love it. So that was just what I was using QCLI for to build a website we use a lot.
That's fantastic. And I just want to say, and I don't remember if I mentioned this to you, but for sure, serverless land was like a real inspiration for even thinking about Leapstacks, right? But just the kind of bias for action that you guys had for creating something like this and simplifying these patterns. And I know we discussed, utilizing those patterns in future stacks. And I think that is something that can make Leapstacks like a million times better than it already is, because it's such a great repository of these patterns and knowledge based on serverless. And serverless is a huge part of Leapstacks, so works.
Definitely. Well, hence also the AWS top picks, because how many patterns do we have? Oh, we do have 933 templates. So, you know, that can also be overwhelming. So, the AWS top picks is ones we're going to also, make sure are up to date with runtimes and up to date with good observability practices and all that kind of thing. Yeah, sorry, slight diversion, Basil. Heading back to Leapstacks, what else would you like to show?
No, that's it. I mean, I'm here to help. Please do connect with me on LinkedIn. Let me know your feedback when you do try it. Like I said, this is purely a POC right now, so I want to know, how do you think it can improve? If you run into any issues, what are those stacks that you're waiting for? I know I mentioned that we are launching the Strands and MCP stack soon. What are the other stacks that you're looking for? And it could be very specific or it could be general. Just, I really want to hear more from you. I see this mostly as a community-led project. This is just the POC. So I'd really love to hear your feedback and how you see, the next steps for Leapstacks could be.
Okay, and I mean, these don't have to be necessary. I mean, the 3 examples you've got are GenAI related, but I mean, this doesn't have to be a GenAI related thing. No, although that is the buzz hot. I'm
just riding the GenAI trend with these initial stacks.
Absolutely. No,
because
no, absolutely.
I
And they're
know, I
also
know,
fun because you can see how they work. Yeah.
yeah, no, and also like obvious, like what's happening right now, with the world of generative AI, and things are moving so fast, right? And on one hand, it's very exciting, the fact that every week there's a new model, there's a new framework, there's a new system of communication between agents. And as exciting as it is, I also understand, like from a builder and a developer's point of view, how overwhelming that can be. And this was kind of part of the inspiration of the speed I wanted of Leapstacks, is that I wanted, like, if something new comes out this week, within 3 or 4 days, there's something that you can launch and actually experiment with. You don't need to kind of go through an entire learning curve with every kind of new model or every kind of system. So yeah, it's a very exciting time with generative AI, but there's nothing limiting the stacks to be generative AI. In the next group of stacks, actually, there's just going to be some very introductory stacks on AWS, like just having a website on S3, like kind of like the pattern that you showed, just very simple stuff, things to do with users, different IAM users and stuff like that, things to do with just purely databases. So yeah, it's not limited to generative AI.
Okay. And then just sort of behind the scenes, once these stacks are then deployed, it's obviously all in your AWS account. You can obviously view it via the front end, but then you can just go and explore. I mean, you can go to CloudFormation, I presume, and then just see the outputs and just
It's all there. You can also, like, because it's completely open source, so it's in your account and completely open source. So you can explore all of the resources that have been created, like as you would have if it was just a CloudFormation stack. But you could also look through the actual code of the CloudFormation stacks and understand how did it, number one, build this environment. If you're interested in that, I mean, it is a mammoth script to build the environment with all of the moving parts. If you're interested, you can see it. You can fork it and make your own modifications and actually see those prototypes. How do you launch them? How did I create these full stacks for each of these prototypes? Because then you can create customized versions for your Leapstacks.
Okay. And then is there one stack that's deployed, which is the Leapstacks, I don't want to say infrastructure, but Leapstacks website and all that kind of thing. And then each stack you deploy is then each Leapstack you deploy is then another CloudFormation stack. So
exactly.
That's
So there's the first CloudFormation stack where when you click deploy to AWS on the website, it just opens a quick link to that stack. And that's the installer stack. Then in this environment, one of the Lambda functions that loads dynamically from our official AWS GitHub repo, these extra prototype stacks that then are loaded, and then when you press launch, it basically just runs that stack. And by the way, the auto destroy, it's a step function on a timer, and then it just nukes the stack.
Aha, interesting.
Yeah.
So
we have no secrets at Leapstacks. We're completely open source.
So the one deploy is just a web URL link that embeds the CloudFormation templates, what's stored on S3 somewhere.
It's stored on a production S3 link basically, and it just loads it remotely. Yeah,
loads it remotely. Yeah. No, I've seen that because that looks cool as well. And then functions just to
just as a point, it was I have to credit James Ward for telling me about this step, because I was not aware of these quick stack links, and in the initial concept I was just going to provide that installer script, but then you'd have to just download it and then either run it locally or upload it into your CloudFormation. And then he mentioned these links, and that even reduced steps further. So thank you, James.
Good, James. James is clever. Good for good for James. So, I mean, we do have a few other minutes left. Is there, if anybody's got any questions to pick Basil's brain, or other than Leapstacks, sort of, what kind of things you're working on? I mean, you've also been a prolific video content creator.
It's very kind of
over many kind of years. What do you, maybe a sort of general question of, where do you see sort of education and, people learning the cloud? AWS has got bigger, it's got the way more kind of things. Leapstacks is a attempt to simplify that. But, if people are maybe starting out, or new to AWS, or they're figuring out the cloud, or they, students, or, high school students or whatever, where do people start, or how do people learn or get going with this kind of industry that we're in?
Well, I mean, we have some great resources. So we have, of course, the AWS developers channels, and there's a lot of great introduction videos there. There's videos for a bit more, deep technical deep dives. So it ranges from the high level to the technical deep dives. You've got some amazing videos there as well. We have other resources like Serverless Land, where you could actually look at those patterns. Our GitHub and AWS samples is fantastic to have these, code that you can samples that you can run and understand. But I think the thing that I would try to suggest the most is really try to learn by doing, and take it step by step. I think a lot of people sometimes they tend to get overwhelmed with documentation and all of the services and trying to just wrap their head around all that AWS has to offer. AWS has to offer a lot. So I think start small with these projects, like a simple website on S3, and then try to kind of give it, store something in a DynamoDB table, and then see kind of that interaction, and that, add API gateway and play with some of the security settings there, some of the, add a CloudFront, caching and throttling. So the idea is just to add these bits and bits, and then soon you're going to have one of those architecture diagrams that scared you at first. But start small, look at the resources that, we have on all of our channels. And also, please feel free to reach out to myself, to Julian, to people on the team. We're here to help you. So, and we've been there. We've all been through these learning curves. So if there's something that you're confused about, never feel shy or embarrassed to just reach out to us and ask. And I'm guaranteeing you that you're going to get an answer.
Yeah. Two things I like to add to that. One is workshops, like seriously, workshops.aws.
Yeah.
Because, sometimes you don't quite know. And I would always say, scratch an itch. If you've got a use case that you would like to learn about or something that's of interest to you, go for that. But sometimes you don't really know. And so browsing workshops.aws, and there's everything from, machine learning to websites to databases to that. And also because that's a bit of a curated environment with, quite strict instructions in a good way. So you sort of curate it along this path to learn something, because that can then somehow spark some ideas. You do a workshop and then you're like, now I've got an idea. Now to build something. Yeah, absolutely. And secondly, we've been running the AWS Lambda Hackathon for a month or whatever. I think we had over 3,500 people do the hackathon, and we had hundreds of submissions. The judges, including myself, have been pouring over them this week, and I mean, it's incredible to see some of the fun, cool stuff that's going. So actually, Serverless Office Hours next week is literally the big reveal. We are going to be doing.
Nice. Can you tell us a sneak peek of some interesting things that you've seen so far?
Oh, definitely. We've got we've got some things who use sort of geospatial mapping to be able to find stuff in the world or move things around and do it. There's some sort of medical things. There's plenty of GenAI kind of things of doing, from meetings to summarization to things like that. There's form filling kind of things. There are like literally loads, and some of them are pretty impressive. Fully built applications that some people have literally put together in a week or two. Nice. The hackathon ran for a month. 1, 2, or 3 weeks. And some impressive, and some, it's all about Lambda, obviously. And so some of the judges have been looking into the code of the Lambda functions. And I mean, some of the statistical analysis and mathematical kind of stuff that people have been doing in that has been incredible. And then some people have been, running an in-memory database in Lambda and then doing some transformations and things like that. And then having to realize, I've got to manage memory, I've got to manage storage. And they found some amazing hacks to do that as well.
Nice.
People optimizing performance, people adding really good observability stories, infrastructure as code. So that has been really cool. So the hackathon has been great, but this is also a kind of thing to sort of get involved. There will be others, and I'm sure there are many other people who run hackathons that you can, because there are prizes to be won. So this one we've run out for next week. We'll tell you who's won the big prizes, but a hackathon is a cool kind of thing to get involved in. And if you've got a great idea, that's also a cool way to explore an AWS.
That sounds amazing. I'm looking forward to next week then.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, we will have all the judges on next week. Must remind everybody, go to Serverless Bengaluru 2025. You'll have to give Eric a big hug for me because I won't be there. He's a big hugger, so he'll hug everybody back. So that is super worth setting up. But for today, really cool. We've got just before I was going to say goodbye, Amin's come back and I don't want to ignore you. It'd be nice to add CI/CD to the stacks, for example, using GitHub workflows and AWS self-hosted runner to deploy to target account. I mean,
Perfect.
More good ideas. Perfect. Absolutely.
Amazing.
We
That's
love
an
it.
amazing idea. 100%. You're 100% right. Yes.
Excellent. Well, Basil, thanks so much for your time. Jeffrey's been our producer this week, so we super appreciate his time and efforts putting this all together as well. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your week. See you same time, same place next week when we talk about some hackathon winners. Bye-bye.